The university lecturer, Mr. Peter Ogban, before his sentencing, pleaded for mercy with the judge, and he said he was the breadwinner of his family. He had dependents who would be very strongly affected if he were to go to jail and lose his means of livelihood. And maybe the court took that into consideration, but that's not the important part here. The important part is the fact that someone who was identified as having committed electoral fraud was taken to court, prosecuted under the Nigerian law, and was found guilty of that offense. That's not something that usually happens, especially when the case is instituted by the INEC. Now, on the other hand, of course, you would admit and agree that Godswill Akpabio would react in some way to this. Yes. Now, despite the incontrovertible evidence pointing to his complicity in that election and the electoral fraud that was committed, the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Godswill Akpabio, has denied that Peter Ogban, the university professor who was jailed for electoral fraud, rigged the election in the favor of the APC. Akpabio disputed this allegation in a statement by his chief press secretary, saying he was rather a victim of the fraudulent manipulation of the election in Akwa Ibom Northwest on the February 23rd election. Now, this is an interesting thing because the case, considered as a landmark case in Nigeria's election history, was prosecuted by the Independent National Electoral Commission, as I said. And I'm very interested in how this doesn't rub off on the APC and Akpabio, who was their candidate in that election, because one of the newspapers painted it clearly, incontrovertible evidence. That was what was presented by this professor in implicating the APC, its candidates, in trying to get undue advantage over the other political parties in that election. His testimony has been heard. He has been sentenced. Now he's going to serve 3 years in jail, apart from paying 100,000 naira fine. However, why is it that this does not spread to the persons or people or party who he fingered in this action? That's where our discussion for this morning is going to be centered on. However, we have to take a commercial break at this point. I've got my guest with me in the studio. He's a lawyer, so of course, you know, we're going to be coming from the legal angle, analyzing the issues around the law that allows this to happen, and then hopefully give you a chance to comment on these issues as well. Don't go away. The commercial break comes up now, and then conversation right after.
Aduke káàárọ̀ ọ̀rẹ́ mi ṣé dáadáa ni ojú ẹ̀ máa kọ̀ rẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ṣé kò sí.
Wo gbogbo ẹ̀ kàn dàbí nǹkan oje. Mo ń ronú bí mo ṣe máa lọ sọ́jà láti lọ ra nǹkan tí mo nílò ní ilé ni jàre. Ó sì ń dààmú ọkàn mi lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀.
Ṣó tí gbọ̀n pa food locker ni. Ibì kan ṣoṣo tí o ti lè ra gbogbo tẹnu jẹ lóríṣiríṣi lówó tí ò ga jara lọ. Ṣé o fẹ́ gbọ́ food locker máa gbé gbogbo ẹ̀ wá báyìí níbikíbi tó bá wà. Ìwọ ṣáà ti lọ sórí www.foodlocker.com.ng tọ́ka sí ohun gbogbo tó bá fẹ́ láì fàkókò ṣòfò wọ́n á sì gbé wá báyìí. O lè rí àwọn oúnjẹ bíi iṣu, gàrí, ẹran, èdè, ẹ̀fọ́, adìyẹ, èso, kódà wọ́n tún ta ògì pẹ̀lú àti àwọn ohun èlò oúnjẹ ilẹ̀ òkèèrè. Wo jára ẹ̀ kàn sí wọn lórí www.foodlocker.com.ng kó ra gbogbo nǹkan nírọ̀rùn.
Olú ilé iṣẹ́ wọn wà ní Ìbàdàn. Wọ́n sì tún lè fi ṣọwọ́ sí níbikíbi tí ẹ bá wà.
Kódà o lè lọ sórí Google Play Store láti gba app wọ sórí ẹ̀rọ alágbèéká.
Ìròyìn ayọ̀ gbà lèyí o. Ó ṣé ọ̀rẹ́ mi, okú àgbálẹ̀ mi. www.foodlocker.com.ng ní ìdásí ìbéèrè mi.
Fún àlàyé síwájú sí, ẹ pè Food Locker sórí 0903-178-7037. Food Locker, ra gbogbo oúnjẹ lójú kan, ìrọ̀rùn ló bá dé.
Come, you don't put yeast for bread before? The dough go just the rise like 5,000 naira when you put for EcoBank. Before you know, if it become 25,000 naira.
Oga Baker!
Hi! Now so EcoBank customers just dey dance a willow as EcoBank Super Rewards don begin boku their money falla. Save 5,000 naira for your EcoBank account for 30 days or open new EcoBank account with 5,000 naira deposit and you fit be one of the 50 people wey go collect 25,000 naira awoof every week for 4 months. 4 people go win 1 million naira grand prize each. Collect EcoBank card for your account and link your card to *326# or EcoBank mobile to increase your assurance. Terms and conditions apply. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Uncle Dentist, wetin be cavities and how Colgate take dey protect my teeth from cavities? Shey dey use comfort?
No dear, na hole for teeth dey cause most tooth pain wey be cavity. But if you use Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection take brush every day, the confirmed formula go help keep natural calcium inside our teeth wey go protect them from tooth decay.
Time don reach to upgrade to the world's most chosen toothpaste, Colgate, because Colgate locks calcium in.
Now, the Nigerian Dental Association, they recommend Colgate.
Make the most of the new normal with Nokia smartphones. Stay connected to friends and family with phone calls and video chats for longer with a 2-day battery life. And capture the beauty around you, snapping and sharing crisp pictures. The Nokia 5.4, 3.4, and Nokia 1.4 make staying connected easier. Nokia smartphones. Trusted, always secure, and built to last.
If you want confidence on a baffle, Premier Cool. It keeps you fresh on it's Premier Cool. You go shine for body and you go fresh. If you want confidence on a baffle.
Stay chilled with Premier Cool Toilet Soap. Removes 99.9% of germs and contains real menthol extracts for that icy cool feel.
The Hallelujah Channel is back on DSTV and GoTV, and you can experience pure joy in the Lord's presence from the comfort of your home this Easter season. Connect with church services from the House on the Rock, KICC, Daystar, the Redeemed Christian Church of God, and more, and live broadcast on Good Friday and Easter Sunday. Enjoy live gospel music performed by Monique, Onos, Mike Abdul, Peter, Frank Edwards, and Tim Godfrey on the Rejoice segment on Sunday, 28th March and 4th of April from 3 p.m. Hosted by Shegun Obe. Tune in to the Hallelujah Channel and bask in His amazing grace from 8 a.m. on Sunday, March 28th to Monday, April 5th on DSTV Channel 197 and GoTV Channel 85. Stay connected to my DSTV app and my GoTV app.
It is time for celebration. 30 years busting with goodness. The challenge can never ever stop us. You can't underrate us. You can't underrate it. Busting with so much greatness. Enjoy our wonderful.
A major part of being a parent is being present. Stay in the pictures and be the parent you want to be with AXA Life Insurance Living Benefits. Free health check, loyalty bonus, cashback and permanent disability covers. Call 0700 AXA Mansard today to speak to an AXA financial advisor.
Hey, why did you put it in the pot like that? You're supposed to break it first.
Say who? This is how I cook my pasta. Besides, it's golden penny pasta. It's non-sticky, so it doesn't matter.
But I want to cook it with meatballs mixed with pepper sauce and cheese.
Go ahead and enjoy your golden penny pasta just the way you want it. Golden penny pasta is made with durum wheat, which contains protein, and it's non-sticky, so you can cook, serve, and eat just the way you want it. With golden penny pasta, your way is best.
Fresh breath is good, but strong teeth and fresh breath is even better. Use Oral-B 2-in-1 toothpaste for strong teeth and long-lasting fresh breath.
It is time for celebration. 30 years busting with goodness. The challenge can never ever stop us. You can't underrate us. You can't underrate it. Busting with so much greatness.
Splash FM 105.5.
Well, thanks a lot for being there. You're listening to Splash 105.5 FM Beyond the Surface for Monday, 29th of March 2021. I'm being told that we have limited time on the show for this morning, so I'm just going to go straight ahead and welcome my guest, Barrister Richmond O. Neta Alade. Thank you for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Nice to have you back. And for those who perhaps are just joining us, this morning we're choosing to focus on a recent hallmark judgment, if you like, that came out of Akwa Ibom State, in which a professor was jailed for 3 years by a court for performing electoral fraud. And he did that in favor of the APC and its candidate in the 2019 election into I think it was the Akwa Ibom North Senatorial District that was concerned. Now, Barrister, I'm sure you've read through that story and you've probably heard the introduction into this when I said, despite the fact that it is abundantly clear, as has been seen in this case, that this man who has been found guilty and sentenced by the court implicated a group, a party, and its candidate in that election. Now, I want for you to explain to us how it is possible under the law that a man who was arraigned for committing a crime and he implicates his accomplices in his testimony, how that doesn't count in the final analysis?
Well, first of all, I must say that the issue of prosecution is left to the prosecuting agency or authority.
Which is in this case INEC?
Yes, which is in this case INEC by virtue of the provision of the Electoral Act of Nigeria. Well, I want to say that from onset, what was in contention was the fact that the election was compromised. And INEC, in its wisdom, in a very novel case, which is the first in Nigeria, punishing electoral fraud of high class, decided to take the said professor to court and at the same time prosecute him for turning the election in favor of the PDP candidates. From
in favor of the APC, actually.
In favor, there are two sides to it. What was said was that the election was in favor of the PDP candidates. Based on what I read, anyway, I stand to be corrected.
Let me just set the record straight here so that we don't confuse people. In this particular case, this one that we're discussing, he was arraigned for trying to rig the election in favor of the APC, not the PDP. Now, there's another case that's still being, the trial hasn't quite commenced. That is the case of another professor who was accused of trying to give the PDP an advantage. That case has not yet been concluded. It's still ongoing. But in this one that we're talking about, it is in the favor of the APC.
Well, there are different reports which I've read. Let me say this.
Okay.
By what I read, he was being prosecuted to have rigged the election in favor of PDP. But in the process of taking evidence, he made mention himself that he also rigged 2 local governments for APC. Well, I don't want to argue on that.
No, that is yes. Even inconsequential in this particular context.
Okay.
Now, why I want to focus on the APC part is in his testimony during cross-examination. I don't know if you read that far. He stated that he was shown some of the exhibits and the election results for one local government showed the actual votes that were scored. And the final showed that an additional 5,000 was added, which did not correlate with what was collected at the polling unit eventually and what was eventually sent to the state collating office. And that 5,000 was in favor of the APC. That is, for me, that it was based on that they got the conclusion. I mean, Akpabio is denying that he did not rig the election for him, because that is what the news reports are saying. Professor jailed for rigging in favor of the APC. What I want us to focus on is whether it is the APC or the PDP, regardless of who did the rigging or who the rigging was in favor of. If a person is taken to court and charged, for electoral fraud in favor of any party, and he actively implicates the party that he was working for, why shouldn't that count, is what I'm saying? Why is it that it is only the professor that gets a statement, a sentence, and gets convicted? How come his testimony is not enough to indict whether the political party or the representative of that political party in the election?
I must first say that this is Nigeria, and the prosecuting agency has that right to choose who and who to prosecute based on the investigation.
So it should have been INEC's position to decide whether or not to prosecute Akpabio or the APC.
Yes, based on investigation. Okay. I wouldn't know, maybe in the process of taking his statements or confronting with facts, if he made mention of that. And I wouldn't know if after making mention of that, maybe INEC actually investigated and found the reason to prosecute Akpabio or not. But the basics is that, when somebody is arrested and charged before the court for a criminal conduct or a criminal offense, by our law, you are, whatever you even say, either before the court or before you are arraigned or after you are arraigned, is not binding on the co-accused. Let's assume that Akpabio was even charged alongside with him. Whatever he says is not binding or does not have any effect on Akpabio.
Even if it is relevant to the case?
Even if it's relevant to the case. The court have to go extra mile. This is a country where somebody can easily implicate another. Where you can say something, and whatever you say, if it were to be binding on somebody, or it will have a consequential effect on somebody, then automatically anybody can say anything against anybody. So that is the essence of that rule. That even when you are in court, let's assume you are even charged together. Let's assume Akpabio is charged together in this circumstance. What the law requires is that you prove your case based on their own merits. Akpabio is a person charged under the law with a crime. Then the other professor too is also charged. So you prove them independently and separately. Okay. You don't prove them all together because whatever anybody says is not binding on the other. So it is now left for INEC or the prosecuting agency to now ask or to go ahead and make further investigation in any Akpabio. Maybe there were pre-meetings, maybe there were phone calls, maybe there were money were exchanged. Before these are factors and these are facts that can help in prosecuting Akpabio. But if those facts are lacking and there's nothing like that, then automatically the INEC cannot just go to court and chase shadow. The only person who was testified against by the returning officers of those local governments in the circumstance is the professor. And the professor now is now indicting somebody else to have participated. But notwithstanding the fact that he's indicting somebody else to have participated, how he participated, he didn't tell us. He only said he rigged in favor. He didn't say, okay, he gave me money, or he made a phone conversation with me, or he put a trigger on my head to, and forced me to announce forcefully. He never said the circumstance under which such falsification were made and how Akpabio participated. So in the circumstance, how do you now say that Akpabio participated? So that is the question.
Okay, so you're saying that it is the lack of evidence that makes it impossible for INEC to probably to go after Akpabio. And regardless of the fact that the professor has said, he hasn't really given anything to show the concise or precise manner in which Akpabio,
of course,
made him do that.
Of course.
I'm wondering, I know you've already said all you have said, but is it possible in the wildest range of our imaginations that certain individuals are considered easy mark? And what I mean by that is, hypothetically speaking, putting say prosecuting Akpabio on one hand, or the APC on one hand, and a lowly professor like this on the other hand, it would take more time, more money, probably more frustrations to win a case against, say, the APC, the PDP, whatever, or Akpabio, as against the way it would be easy proving a case like this against a professor. Do you think, is it possible, under any imagination, that the INEC decided to choose the easy mark? The person who it will be easier to win the case against. in this instance?
Well, I always say something, anything is possible. But most time, it's my personal principle not to lean on speculation. I lean on what is obvious and factual before me. And by what the professor has presented, even in courts, I don't see any nexus or a direct nexus of what he said or confessed to have done to what he said Akpabio have done. And if there is any direct nexus, automatically he ought to at least bring it to bear. So there is an inability to bring it to bear for us to all know how Akpabio participated, makes it a kind of a chasing of shadow for any prosecuting agency to take such kind of professor serious.
Even when he says that a returning officer of a local government ordered him, as a matter of fact, read out the figures that he filled out in those forms, would it not be on INEC to investigate further and find out why that...
Is it possible? A returning officer, who is he? And how does he force him or read it out to him? When you are the how can I call it, when you are in the position to declare result sheets,
yes,
the result sheet is handed over to you. It's not by dictation. We've seen it happen everywhere. Nobody dictates.
No, the collation happens before what we see on television. You know, the numbers from the different local governments
but
together.
It's not by saying it out, it's by giving you the result sheet.
That is the point, Barrister. The case shows... The copy of this case that I read is published by the Premium Times, and it has different segments to it. There was one that detailed the testimonies as given in the court. And while they were cross-examining this professor, he admitted that the results that were gotten from the votes were set aside when it came to collating the results, and what he filled, the figures he filled, were figures that were read to him by another man.
That's what I'm saying. You can't read it out to him.
But it happened in this case. Except of course he's lying.
He's not a novice. He should know better. He's educated. A professor for that matter. Somebody reading something to you, I believe that you should ask. Everybody, you know, there are rules.
Of course, it points to compromise. Like maybe there was inducement. Maybe we can't say because it wasn't stated in the report. But I'm thinking, what would make a man decide to do something that so obviously could lead him in trouble? He would not do it because he's trying to be selfless, and you know, there has to be some encouragement. Most times, as I've seen, it is financial. This kinds of encouragement is financial.
Unfortunately, he never gave the circumstance under which he was forced.
No, he didn't.
So he never gave he only said that what was read to him was also what he read out. And I'm questioning the fact that it couldn't have just been read to him. It should be more than that. By INEC rules, you take the result, you read it out yourself. Not that somebody is dictating something to your ears. It's even unheard of. It doesn't appeal to common sense.
But we've seen a lot of unheard of things happen during our elections, have we not?
Well, in the circumstance now, and in this situation, there is nothing suggesting or showing or evidencing any other thing than what he said.
Okay.
And mind you, some of all those professors, some of the collating officers too, who are also lecturers of various universities, also gave testimonies against him.
Yes.
From those local governments, they said the result they gave to him, he was said they dictated to him. Which one appeal to common sense? That they dictated something to you, professor, when the INEC rule requires that you take the result and read out yourself. And you are saying they now dictated to you. And now the people who are the collating officers and returning officers from different local governments that were said to have been affected, said we submitted to you. And what we submitted to you were not what you read out. Look at if you were to be investigating officer or you are to be a judge, take where the both testimonies and deduct. I am very sure that one does not appeal to common sense and one is more logical and reasonable than the one that the professor gave.
Is putting forward.
Yes.
I'm going to also ask you, do you think we should be excited about this? It's been acclaimed as hallmark, first time ever we're getting a prosecution for electoral fraud in Nigeria. Should we be do you think that this was exhaustively done in all the ways that it could have been done? And should we be excited about it? 3 years in jail, 100,000 naira fine.
I think the law even prescribed 10 years. So I think the judge has been magnanimous enough to have reduced the sentencing and jail time to 3 years. Well, I think it's something that is good. At least it's novel in the history of Nigeria. A lot of people have always perpetrated fraud during election, and they've always made away with it. But this time around, since there is a landmark decision now prosecuting a defaulting collating officer, and so automatically, somehow, some way, in the next election, most of all these professors too, who have a name to build, who care about their future and what people say, and who cares about how they retire peacefully and enjoy their money and the benefit of what they've at least work for, we somehow, some way, be very reluctant for anybody to induce them or to entice them into doing anything illegal.
I mean, do you really think so? Because when you consider the ratio, you know, the thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of cases of election fraud that we've had over the years, and in all that time, we've just only been able to get this one. Do you think it would actually make that,
well,
that sort of an
there
impact?
has been you know, the prosecuting agency under the Electoral Act is INEC. And most times there has been debate if they have the capacity and the capability to be able to prosecute or not. And now I think this is a kind of test. They are testing their feet in water now to see if actually they can prosecute or not. And since they've started, they said a journey of 1,000 miles begin with a step.
Sure.
They've taken this step, and it's novel. Even the judge commented that it's novel, that INEC is prosecuting electoral fraud, and which is always what everybody has expected, so that we can have at least a sane society. So in the circumstance, I want to believe that somehow, some way, what they've started, somehow, some way, they can also build on it.
I wish we could go on, Barrister Nathan. I mean, there's a lot that I have to ask, but we have to put it to a stop here. Barrister Richmond Nita Alade, thank you so much
it's my
for
pleasure.
being
Thank
here.
you.
And apologies for the short time that we had to do this. I hope that next time around, of course, you'd be available to go through this story or any other one with us. That's the show this morning. Apologies again for how brief it is. We've run out of time. We have something special coming up for you, and we have to go. But realize that Ronke Onofwa we'll be here tomorrow on the Morning Splash. And thank you so much for listening to us. My name is Charity Jerome. Enjoy your Monday morning.
Splash FM 105.5.
Come on, you don't put yeast for bread before?